All right. It's working this time. Hello, everybody. I'm going to play a quick intro. I'm going to share out, and then we're going to pull Melissa out. All right, let's see.
It's Todd Medina, SoulogyOneStudios, bringing you a little church on Sundays, Soulogy style. Woo! Hit it! Woo! There is a river before us all. Some would call it the river of faith. To others, it is a river of fear. On the other side is a timeless truth laying deep within our gifts and dreams. We may approach this river in mass, yet each one of us will crease the peace of the still and cool waters alone. How deep and dark they may be beneath the shadow of the sun. When will we know, and tell me, when will we be done? Questions of faith, questions of fear. I cannot carry both with me, nor is there a bounty underfoot. So I'm gonna leave fear behind. I'm gonna take faith with me, cause I am soul. Oh hell yeah. Woo! Hit it. Woo!
All right, let's get that crazy guy off there. I'll bring Melissa up. Let me find Melissa. Melissa D. Melissa D. There she is right there. What's up, Melissa D?
What's happening?
Just hanging out by the pool, drinking margaritas.
Yeah.
No.
Any mojitos for me?
Mojitos.
Yeah, why not?
You like mojitos? Yeah.
Too much. Well, I used to.
Yeah.
I haven't drank in I don't know how long.
I only had them a couple times, and they're pretty deadly. Oh, yeah, I'm rushing around this morning. I apologize, but it is all right. Everything's all right. I just put up the Zoom link for anybody that gets knocked off of Facebook, which is still happening. You can go to this pinned comment and go right to the Zoom room. You can also comment in the Zoom room. We're going to get this shift worked out here the next couple of days because I've had it with all this crap. We also can't share on Facebook, so if you could share, we would appreciate it if these shows resonate with you. And thank you for the continued love and support contributions. Keep us going by the seat of our pants every day. Now that I'm over the fear for the morning, let's get down to the real stuff. What do you want to talk about today? How you doing? You look great. I just took
Thanks. Yeah, life's good. Life's good.
Yeah.
I don't know. Whew, what a ride. The deeper we go, the more stuff obviously that comes up, the more magic that unfolds. I'm like, what the hell? What a few weeks.
Yeah.
How about you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. We just what's today? The 29th. We got orders to leave 30 days ago. We were gone 8 days later, and we've been, that's why I said, get past the fear first thing in the morning and get back up there and do it and know everything's going to be all right.
Yeah.
So it's it's like walking a plank, but you don't get to the end. You just can't see where the next step is. But
yeah,
I'm not the person they came to see today. You are.
Yeah, listen, personally for me, there's no other way to say this. Like, I have definitely been in the trenches. Every time you think you've got a level cleared in this game, boom, up pops a whole new arena.
True.
For me, I'm continuously turning in, doing the work. So over the last couple of weeks, when a couple of things kept revisiting that I was full sure that I had put to bed,
yeah,
I took my ass off on a deep inner journey again. And
yeah.
there's not, yeah, sorry.
No, this is getting good. I can feel it.
Because it's been such a phenomenal 3 weeks. And I spoke with Morgan on, I think, Tuesday of this week. What day is today? No.
Today's Thursday.
Tuesday. I spoke with her, and I did say to her, I hope by Thursday I actually find the words to get my shit together to articulate what I have personally experienced and what I have personally cracked in my world. And there's no other way to put this other than cracking addictive behavioral patterns that have pretty much gripped me the entirety of my adult life.
Right.
And there's so many people out there at the moment who are clearing so much in order to keep moving forward. They're just endlessly searching for, taking action on, and striving to reach a better place.
Yeah.
With what really feels like it's against all odds.
Yeah.
No matter how hard we're trying. And it's despite the evidence that keeps showing up in front of us. Fear, false evidence appearing real. It's our fears all up and in our face, trying to dance with us again when we've already done the work.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, over the last few weeks, I had enough of this shit. There's no other way to put it.
Yeah.
I'm so done with it. But I didn't know what to do. It was like the easiest way to describe this journey is being in a maze and where I kept doing the work, but it felt like I kept coming up against a block, an obstacle within the maze. Me being me, I just turn my ass around and go and find another direction.
Yeah.
I keep being rerouted to the same thing. So this is everybody.
Yeah.
They fall 7 times and they stand up 8, but everybody is so weary at the minute that when I kind of I cracked my own bullshit, a piece of me was so afraid that it wasn't real that I just sat still with it. So this version of me, the one talking to you right now, knows I've done the work. You know you've done your work. So how do we find ourselves in repeat patterns with things that keep coming to teach us when we've asked for that let up, when we've asked for the universe to give us a break, when we know we've done the work? But how are we here again? You're human, so you're going to be triggered. So it's like having to pull out every tool that you have under the sun and try it. And if it works, brilliant. And if it doesn't, you're throwing it away. And so for me, that's what it was like.
Yeah.
I actually reached out to Morgan personally because I couldn't crack it.
Yeah.
I've been doing the specific work that I've been doing over the last few months has been you've heard Jason Estes speak about his clear camp. So it's consciously going in there and clearing, using active specific commands to literally clear any old thoughts, beliefs, experiences, everything from your field.
I've never heard him, but I understand.
Okay.
I've had what you're saying.
This is one of the things that Jason does, and there's a group of us guys together. We're doing it individually and we're doing it for the collective.
Mm-hmm.
And so I cleared huge amount by doing this, consciously going in with everything, every single thing that will have come up for me. Is this true to me? Does this serve me? Does this honor me? Does this disempower me? Does this take me further away from what it is I'm trying to achieve? But I still found myself hitting those brick walls, and I didn't understand why. And this is my experience, but if what I'm about to talk about helps anybody out there, please do yourself a favor and really free yourself from the prison of your own mind, from the chains that are completely binding you to a dream that you created in the past, not the one that you're headed to. So for me, what I did was I wrote out a list of the things, the outstanding things that I was actually still judging in the people closest to me because they were still triggering me. And when I was triggered, I found myself getting pulled out of my heart and back into my head. And I've been working to do the opposite.
Yeah.
To be as present as I can be, to be as happy in my own skin as I can be, to honoring my own inner peace. So what I did was I wrote a list of the people who are the very closest to me in my life right now, who trigger me on any level. And I allowed myself, being very mindful of my words then, I allowed myself to be pulled back into the story of my past. What I didn't know, because I was so focused on what I was trying to clear, was that what I was trying to achieve was the opposite of what I was trying to judge.
Yeah.
Okay? But I forgot.
Or what you thought you were was the opposite of what you were judging. I mean, what you thought you were the opposite of it you were judging. Know what you're saying?
Yeah. So if I'm writing a list of things that trigger me about you, things that I'm judging about you, you are an extension of me.
Yeah.
And so the things that I judge in you exist in me.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
When I wrote this list, I realized that the list that I had comprised was an old version of me. I knew that. I knew it without exception. None of it resonated with me. I wrote out a list of the things that were the opposite to some of the things I described, which were withdrawing love, withdrawing communication, rejection, abandonment. I mean, I went really deep with this list. I write out a list of the things that are the opposite, which are actually the experiences that I want to have. So if I'm writing on this list, something that I judge, for example, as in rejection, the opposite is what I want to bring into my life. Does this make sense?
Yes. Yes.
Withholding love, I want to experience intimacy.
Yeah.
Lack of communication, I want to communicate.
Yeah.
But this is my experience. This is my world. This is my life. And I'm the creator of my experience. And what I give my energy to grows. So if this version of me now, writing these list of judgments, doesn't resonate with any aspect of this, I have to be the one who decides what's going to make its way into my world, which is the list of the opposite. As I went deeper with this list, there was similarities, huge similarities with one specific list to a person from my past, my childhood, say, right? So all of a sudden I can see the correlation between behavioral patterns that the old version of me engaged in, addictive behavioral patterns, in order to find my way into a space where I knew without exception the only thing that I would settle for was the experience of the opposite. The opposite to addiction is connection. And I've pretty much spent the majority of my adult life engaging in addictive behavioral patterns. And to some people, the addiction topic is so big. They associate addiction with drugs or alcohol or some of these main big things, food, sex, whatever it might look like. People aren't aware that you can be addicted to your emotions. You could be addicted to drama. You can be addicted to pain and suffering. And these are the things that keep us in the loop.
So if you, okay, I'm go back to a couple of things. So if you feel that you cleared something and it keeps coming back, you said that earlier, like, why are these things coming back? I cleared this. Did you go down that rabbit hole?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
This is why this is so important for me to actually talk about, because if this conversation frees anybody up here watching, this is so big for me. This is gold for me. As I said, this version of me right now speaking to you is the one who has done the work. I know it. I know it without exception. I know what I want. I know what I don't want. I know what I want to bring into my field. I know what I want to, I know what I will unquestionably not settle for. I know who I am. I know who I am not. So as I observed, what I did was, and again, actually, this is with the help of Morgan, I had a conversation with my future self. Someone who has their shit together on epic proportions. Someone who is completely deliriously happy. Someone who is completely full of unconditional love and compassion for me and the wisdom of what I have been through. And the message I was told was, I have to take every single experience of every single thing in this lifetime that I have encountered that has made an impact on me and allow my emotions to guide me. And anything that does not resonate with who I am now has to go, period. Okay? There was a few of the bits and pieces that were said, but I was told in no uncertain terms that if I wanted what this person had, I literally had to completely cut the shit with myself. I had to stop treating myself like an option. I had to stop with conscious choice, stop engaging with anything or anyone or any situation that was hurting my whole being. Now, again, remember, I've been doing this my entire life.
Yeah.
So how do I hack this shit?
Yeah.
How? So I have present version of me, future version of me. And then a situation happened the other day. And straight after this conversation, and anybody can do this, every single person out there can do this. Drop out of your head into your heart and have this conversation. And listen to what comes up. I observed the reaction to a situation that arose. And I was like a kid. I was completely reacting. I had a situation with somebody who I love very much. And I was being truthful with them. I was being honest with them. And what I got back was a bombardment of all of the stuff that I wrote on a list from this person. Does this make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Keep going.
So this hit me like a freight train. It was all of the things the old version of me was. And so when I was hit with them, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go. I was like a small child, completely vulnerable, completely exposed. Please don't leave me. Please don't walk away from me. Please don't reject me. Please communicate with me. And it was just god awful. But it was like I was in drone mode. And if I'm working with somebody else in a one-to-one session, I'm able to do this in a heartbeat for somebody else. I'm able to go up and out of their situation. I'm able to observe multiple timelines, multiple situations, put everything together like I'm working with puzzle pieces. And it's incredible to be able to facilitate. But I was never able to do this for myself. So because I was so present with what was happening, and the present version of me was suffering so much as a result of how I was reacting. I was like, what the hell? I have cleared this. I know this isn't real. I know this is not my stuff. Where is this coming from? And within 2 minutes, I was observing the actions of the kid version of me, the one who has acted and responded from a trauma-based response right up until, actually it's moment by moment until you catch it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Am I responding in any given moment, or am I reacting? Well, I observed what I used to do in full swing. And I caught it and I saw it. And instead of me giving myself shit, I very compassionately called myself to one side. And me, the version of me now, pacified the kid version of me. And somehow it was like I merged the three together.
Yeah.
That for me is like the Trinity. That's the Holy Trinity.
Past, present, future.
All in one. And by observing the child with the action and power of the present version of me and bringing in the wisdom of the future version of me, it was like I was able to deal with something that had gripped me forever. And then I stood back from it and I realized that this is what happens to each and every one of us. There is not one person out there who does not experience trauma in some shape or form in this lifetime. It's a given.
That's right.
It's a given. And whatever trauma looks like to you, whatever it looks like to me, I don't get to tell you what trauma is. You don't get to tell me what it means to me. And what happens then is we go from a place of trauma, having this experience, and our perception of what that trauma looks like causes a distortion.
Yeah.
In our experiences.
Yeah.
With that distortion, that leads on to a place of judgment of self or judgment of others. From that place, the judgment leads to addictive behavioral patterns that lead to attachment. Attached to the story so much that you are guaranteed to experience suffering.
Yeah. The
suffering takes you right back round and puts you right back into the beginning again, where you get to relive your trauma. Trauma, and then it keeps going. The trauma alters your perception in that given moment. So you're building and building and building upon something.
But my trauma's worse than yours. My pain's worse than yours.
And when we become fluent in what Caroline Myss loves to call woundology, what we do is I enable you to stay in your shit. You enable me to stay in mine.
Yeah.
And then our perception gets even more distorted and our judgments become deep-seated. And then our attachment to the situation, well, who am I going to be if I clear this once and for all? And then more suffering comes along until this loop continues. It was mind-blowing to witness for myself. This is just my experience. Outside of it, it was like, holy shit. I could see everything. I could see every single thing, every situation, every trauma that was something to me, that meant something to me. And the spirals went every direction.
Yeah.
And all it ever was, now I can say, looking back, was the kid version of me reaching out, craving what the current version of me right now is actively working to counteract, which is pure connection. This is just my journey. I'm here for connection. And if I don't have anything less than what, for example, you guys have, I don't want it. But if I engage in something, anything remotely that compromises my integrity, that compromises my love for myself now, that compromises my future, then that's on me.
Yeah.
And I'm not willing to do that shit no more.
So this is good stuff, man. Wow.
I definitely need a mojito.
Okay. So I don't, and I've been through the same process that you worked with Morgan on. And you know what, the thing is, like, okay, so you're talking about making a list. Now the list that I made were, particularly one, were 10s, 20s, 30, I mean, over 100 on a list. When have you failed in your life? Make a list of that. What do you love about, what do you love about your father? What do you not like about your father, your mother, your sister, your brother, your ex-spouse, your children, your friends, like you're talking about? I just want people to understand how in depth this goes. Number one, you make a list, for instance, of it's one of your parents. Well, I love this because they're outgoing and because they're this and they're that. And then I don't like this, this, and this. And then you go down the list and you own the stuff that you that you resonate with, and the stuff that you think is not you. Right? Yeah. That's part of it. And then just accepting all the so-called failures or whatever it is, whatever these lists are, owning everything. And the other thing that I didn't want to let go was, you said these things pop up over and over again. We've already cleared them. Why do they keep popping up? And one of the things I learned from her, I'm sure you guys talked about it, was polarities. You know, if I'm an empath and I'm in a relationship with a narcissist, the last thing I believe in the world that I am is that person. But my field's gonna attract that as long as I am giving my power over as an empath, you know, sacrificing myself as an empath, as opposed to taking hold of my power. That's still gonna come into my field until I say to myself, I am that. How can we say I am that, but I'm not that? That's not what the good books say. The good books say I am. I am the I am, right? So how can I be that? I am that, but I'm not that over there, and I'm not that over there. It doesn't work that way. Yeah. So these exercises and this method, it's very personal. Nobody's going to do it for you. I've actually done it with a couple of people and watched them cry, watched them turn purple. Both of them got extremely upset with me. You know, don't kill the messenger. Make a list here and watch them literally melt down. Literally, one of them hyperventilated, had to put her on the bed and put a crystal on her chest. And I don't do stuff like that. You know what I mean? But it's some deep stuff, and no one's going to do it for you. But even though the lists are long and the exercises can seem very cumbersome, they don't take long. How quick were you able to push through this stuff?
I've been actively working on clearing my field. So personally, my addictive behavioral patterns, my addiction, the addiction thing came up for me very much so around relationships. And oh God, when I think back, you're talking about the dynamic between the empath and the narcissist. I lived it over and over and over again. I had just one big thing to clear that had been repeating, but that's because I've consciously been doing this work. Like you said, nobody's going to come in here and do it for you. So I've been consciously doing this for very, very much so for since January of this year, as part of as part of the mystery school I'm part of, but relentlessly on my own. If anything comes up and causes any sort of disruption in my life anymore, I'm like, turn in, drop everything, turn in.
Mm-hmm.
This particular situation took me 2 weeks, but only because I had done my list previously over the past month, where I visited every relationship that I'd ever been in, and I wrote a list of the things that I learned and I experienced as a result of being in those situations. So what I did by doing those lists, which was a little bit different from this, was I was able to experience, or observe rather, the things that at that time, when I was immersed in thinking it must be me, I must not be good enough, I must not be lovable enough, I was able to observe, actually, do you know what? It wasn't me. That person was the abuser here, or that person, acted completely disrespectfully, or whatever it might look like. But I was the one who stayed in it because I didn't know any better. And my response to those situations, again, was based on my perception of any of the trauma that I had experienced. So it's trauma on top of trauma on top of trauma that just literally just expands and just takes on. But nothing goes away until it teaches us what we need to know. And so for me, that dynamic of, for me, there's like two versions of the empath now. There's the disempowered and the empowered empath.
Right.
I've been an empath forever. Everybody is, actually. Yeah. I'm just a finely tuned one. And right now I'm an empowered empath. But what I learned this week was I can observe the results of doing the inner work. But if this version of me doesn't take some action steps behind it to make sure that the cycle doesn't, in fact, repeat, then I'm just placing myself back in that loop again.
Yeah.
Over and over.
That's right.
Look, it's not easy. And you're talking about writing out lists of the people that you love.
I mean, and that's the thing is, it's really simple. It's not easy. It's really simple, though.
Mm.
I learned on my own before I even met Morgan, and I wasn't successful at it. I mean, not to the degree that we're talking about today, but I knew that when I was coming out of the dark nights of the soul, walking the streets, and I decided I've got to shift this thing. And I don't mean, go get a job and make some money and get a house and be normal and all that. I meant, like, how do I fix this shift? You know what I mean? And so I called the person that had violated me the most. And that sounds like a victim, but let's say the person that I had the most animosity with, the most friction. And it was a bitch. And it took, and I don't speak to that person today, not because I don't have an issue with it anymore. I put it to bed, but it took 3 years to get to that point, and some major work with Morgan, actually. But what I'm trying to say is it's real simple. You can find these things that will offer you, if you can accept them, that will offer you the biggest potential elevations. And it's like knocking the biggest dominoes down. So it is mother and father and perpetrator and brother and sister and aunt and uncle and friends and ex-spouses. Those are great places to go. Ex-spouses. I've got one, and I can go, and I've done it many times, and I feel pretty clear on it. These are the things that I didn't like about them. And then of course you shift it. You go to the other polarity. You own what you don't like about them. And you also get to look at, you ever think about this, the people that you don't get along with, or they give you the most pain, like your mother or your sister, your brother, whatever. You start to make a list. I mean, it's easy to make the list of the things that you don't like, but then you have to make a list of the things you do like. And then you start to see another side of it. So, the thing that, the two things that helped me the most were, of course, making the list and invocating them. She's got that invocation. It's extremely powerful because it's like it's not a spell, but it's like a abracadabra. Boom, it's done. I'm done. You can feel the energy leave. I watched it happen last night with someone. And then the other one that I love that makes it a lot easier because I can't always remember the invocation and carry a copy of it with me. And that's the whole, I refuse, I will no longer have a relationship with the energy of narcissism, not within myself or anyone else. Thank you, it is done. And I say that, and I might say it 2 or 3 times, but I'm done, I'm done. And I think you're seeing a lot of that. You're seeing a lot of that dynamic in these last couple of months, which have been very difficult. But you see it on social media. You see people saying, "I am done." Yeah. Well, there's a difference between saying "I am done" and "I am not that," and saying "I am done" in you and in me, in anyone, but in me too, right? Even if you don't think, I'll give you one last example. I was traveling around in between Morgan coming, coming, and I would, I was in a place of lack. So I had my own journey of not being responsible enough to take care of myself. So it left me vulnerable. So people wanted to help me. And not everybody some of them had an ulterior motive, like they wanted to sleep with me, Well, I got a girlfriend, everyone knows that. I got a wife, at the time it was a girlfriend on the other side of the world. And I'm devoted and, but still you want me to drop my pants or whatever, no, it ain't going to happen. And so it really irritated me because I'm not looking. And Morgan would say, "It's active in your field." And I'd be like, "How can it be active in my field if I don't even think about it? You're the only thing I think about." She said, "It's active in your field. And it may not be what you're experiencing coming at you, but it's the opposite. It's the polar opposite." So then I go, okay. So then I go and clear what I can say. Well, I don't, what do you call it? Monogamy, and then I'd have to go clear infidelity. You know what I mean? So you clear one end of the spectrum, you clear that. And you know what? After I cleared that, never had a problem since. Yeah. Well, I know I've gotten uglier since then, but I'm just kidding.
You're so handsome.
Yeah, right. Thank you.
No, it is. It can. The idea of doing this can appear to be so daunting, but it's like a treasure chest. I swear to God.
Yeah.
I had a learning dream where I got to revisit an old version of myself. And in the dream, I got to experience me as 3 people. Yeah. There's myself and 2 other people in the experience. And it was like I got to be, again, taken outside of the situation. And the detrimental, addictive shit that I kept engaging in, the same cycle in, I was hurting myself. I didn't know how to come undone from it at the time. It's like all of these people are versions of me.
Absolutely, they are.
And we don't see this when we're in the throes of it. You're talking about, the ex-partners or whatever. Like, just to give people watching an idea of what this looks like. Today I had a conversation with my ex-husband. I'm not going to go into it. It's not even important. It was crap. Like, it's just very trivial. But this is how it articulates in everyday life. I say something to the man about my perception of a situation that will happen next year. Something that's coming up next year. He gets overwhelmed by what I say. He reacts. I react to him reacting. He comes out with, I get triggered by, he's dealing with me based on his experience with me, which is now 8 years old, like old.
Yeah.
And I'm getting pissed off and frustrated because I'm there going, why can't you just communicate with me? And the second I said it, I went up and out of the situation. And then he said something like, you know what? Anything I do is never good enough with you anyway. It never has been. And then I went up higher again. And I was able to observe that's his perception of himself. This is my perception of myself.
Yeah.
And I was able to stop engaging at that point with that conversation. Yeah. So I said, listen, do you know what? I'm going to get off the call, and I'll catch you later on.
Yeah. The less said, the better.
Yes.
Right? The less said, the better.
But when we're in that place,
yeah,
the old version of me would have been defended. Like, but this is why you've got so much.
Of course.
Oh, it's just.
You cannot engage rationally a wounded ego. No. Not your own and not anyone else's. So Morgan has a great saying, which I bit my tongue on 50 times until I mastered it, which is, and it applies, think about the power of this. If you know it, why you got to say it?
Yes.
If you're really at a level of awareness and awakening and enlightenment, or whatever the hell you want to call it, I don't give a damn if you're talking to the Dalai Lama or to a nun or a priest or to anyone about anything. If you're in a situation where you have got to state, you have got to prove you're right, which means you got to put someone in the wrong or put someone down or prove your superiority or their inferiority, then you're in the wounded. Mm. If I'm having a conversation, I've been guilty of it many times. I've been guilty of it on this show. But you know, it's like I'm learning to be quiet, and I'm not a quiet person, but I'm learning to be quiet to the point where people ask me over the last month, "Why are you so quiet?" Mm. You know, in the conversation. Even Morgan asked me today, "Why are you so quiet?" I'm just watching everybody. I'm just watching everything go around, watching how everything works. It's beautiful, but the main thing is watching myself, you know, and I don't know about everybody else, but I know I've spent a lot of the last 6 months to a year telling people, sorry, nothing personal, but my own ascension and my own shadow watching and shadow eating, it's a full-time job. I don't have time to get to, you know, I don't have time to come off of my perch here. And you know, I got a letter the other day and it was basically projecting, you did this and you did that and you did this. And I just said, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. And I went on, and that vibration seems, I'm watching it, seems to be, but I think the best thing we can do for people is be quiet. In many cases, the best thing to do is say nothing, because when you say nothing, it's like whatever they said is just echoing in their ears, and they're going into the self-examination, and the universe is supporting all of this right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you go quiet with the right intention, or you speak your truth even with the right intention, and just remember, we're not always conscious, but the universe is going to support that. You know, it really is.
I had a brilliant experience the other day, and it's the kind of flip side of what you've just said. But you're saying when you're talking about unarmed truth. So unarmed truth sometimes will be you being still and observing or being quiet, and sometimes it's actually speaking your truth.
Yeah.
And one of my best friends calls me up on the phone. He says something off the cuff, but what he said, I felt in that moment completely dishonored me, disrespected me.
What
he hadn't a clue, right? He made a comment. Now, it was like everything went into slow motion, and I could feel myself triggered. The comment he made, the old version of myself, the wounded one, the one who felt the need to defend herself.
Yeah.
She stayed quiet.
Okay.
And I listened.
Yeah.
And I stayed quiet and I said nothing. To the point where he knew what he said was completely out of line, completely inappropriate, and that my silence had actually triggered him. Yeah. So then he meets me then maybe 30 minutes later, and he goes, you all right, like? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, like, what's wrong? He goes, you were very quiet. So I stayed quiet. He didn't know what to do with it.
That's right.
And I turned around and I said to him straight off the bat, don't ever pick up the phone and think on any level it's appropriate to speak to me in the manner in which you just did. And his mouth hit the floor and he goes, are you for real? He goes, sure, I've joked with you plenty of times before. Like, what's your problem?
Yeah.
And with this, I turned around and I said to him, I'm telling you now, because so this is the point I'm trying to make. The past version of me stood still and was quiet. The current version of me went, you don't get to do this shit one more time. Who I am or who I was, he made a comment about something like from years ago. And literally I went, I am not my story.
Yeah.
So I hit him with that. And I said, you don't get to speak to me like that. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Yeah. What you said is not okay with me. And he goes, Melissa, I think you're overreacting a little bit. And I turned around and I said to him, that's not your call. Now, this completely knocked him back. He goes, what do you mean? I said, that's not your call to make.
That's right.
If you believe that I'm overreacting, that's mine. And he stood there. And he goes, okay. But like, I seriously think you're overreacting right now, because I was dead, still, resolute in what I was saying.
Yeah.
I was getting behind me, this version of me, and saying, what you have just said is not okay on any level. Don't you dare, as much as I love you and you're my friend, do not dream of speaking to me like that again. So when he went to say it the third time, it was like I got pulled right out of my body. Yeah. And what I actually experienced was this version of myself, the empowered version of myself, saying yes to me and no to anything outside of me that disrespected or dishonored me. What I also saw was the kid version of him, who was terrified and scared and afraid that his friend who loves him is not going to love him anymore, is not going to speak to him anymore, is going to reject him and leave him, and completely. And because I was able to see both versions of ourselves in action, operating and responding from where our hearts were in that given moment, in my case, where his mind was in that given moment, it gave me the freedom and the power to honor myself and still honor him.
Yeah. It's
unarmed truth and unconditional love. Yeah. And he apologized to me. He said, look, I'm really sorry. I had no idea that bothered you.
Yeah, I had no idea you're such a badass. That's probably what he wants to. But no, look, this is a great example. And somebody brought up a good point, because I've had said this a couple of times, and then people will make this comment. Micheline Clancy. Sorry if I messed up your name. Thank you for the comment. There is a place to be silent. There's also a place where what you want to be said, and that's the time not to be silent. Now, what I'm talking about is being silent when a wounded ego is coming at you, that in the old 3D codependent type of cycle or whatever loop, that energy comes at you and always got an answer. And in other words, that's how we function. We function chaos answered by chaos, irrational. You know what I mean? So there's always this extended conversation. So what I'm talking about is if someone's coming at you with victimhood or woe is me or, whatever on the pity pot, I just don't say nothing. But if someone's coming at you, like in this case, and you need to lay it on the line, you're not putting them down. You're not putting them on a pedestal. You're not proving you're right and they're wrong. You're just saying, this shit will not stand anymore. Don't look at me as who I was, but who I am and who I want to be. And I'll do the same for you, kind of thing,
It's respect.
It's so funny. And you said this, the other thing that you said too, that I think is really powerful. But again, everything's a challenge to the ego, and you really got to be careful about it, is that as you start to have this self-awareness and do these lists and you invocate and you clear and you start to see the polarities and own the polarities, you start to get a higher awareness. You start to become a higher observer. And you do notice things in people. That's why I like being quiet now, because I can watch everybody. Well, why is that? Why is it that I can now see things in people? So last night we were playing this really cool card game, or drawing these cards that Morgan's had for many years, and they're really powerful. They're not like card readings. They're abstract, and they tap into the subconscious, and it's just, when you get it going, it's really cool. So one of the cards, the sets of cards that were pulled, was you pull a word card and then you pull a picture card. And the word card was expert. And so you say, what, from the human level, you say, what does that mean to you? Well, I'll just say, like, I feel like I'm an expert at this or an expert at that. So then the next card was a corral, or a paddock, what they call, and all the sheep were in the paddock, and there was a shepherd opening the gate and letting the sheep come out. And so we had this really long round table discussion about the different things, and it was really, really interesting. And then it just popped in my head, and I thought, wait a minute. I said, everybody, are you an expert at being a sheep? I'm an expert at being a sheep. I know what it is to be a sheep. I know what it is to be a victim. I know that game. At the same time, am I an expert at being a shepherd? You know what I mean? I don't know. But I do know one thing. I can't be an expert at being a shepherd unless I'm an expert being a sheep. So I can now say to myself, I'm an expert at being a sheep, which means I absolutely can be an expert at being a shepherd. Doesn't mean it's going to happen today. Yeah. But I think that whole thing is that you get to see yourself, basically. What you saw in him, at some level, you saw another version of you prior,
Yeah. Everybody outside of you is an extension of you. And when you can look like, literally, if you can, in the middle of the chaos and the drama or whatever it might be, if you can remember that this is an extension of me, and ask, what am I? What is my higher self trying to show me about me that will end up enabling and serving me?
Yeah.
Because you're here to experience the very best. But that can't make its way to you when you're engaged in a battle with an ego and you're in your head. You can't.
No, that's why I love that. What's the other one she says? She says, I will no longer have a relationship with my wounded child. Don't be surprised when I don't have one with yours. These sound kind of, harsh, but they're not.
It's so powerful.
One thing I remember too, and I'm not patting myself on the back at all, because I had no idea what the hell I will. Really, I didn't have a whole lot of idea of what I was doing 8 years ago, 7 years ago, 6 years ago, when all this started, right before I met her. But I remember, because mostly it was poetry and prose, and I remember getting a letter or two, and they'd say, I like the way you write because you always include yourself. You don't say you. And I didn't do that consciously. I'm going to tell you straight up. It was really a personal journey. I am soul. But I think that about, all the complexities of what we talk about and what's going on and all the stuff that we're exposed to. And it's really that simple for me. It's just that I am soul. I'm soul, which means, hey, you're soul, I'm soul, we're equal, and it all goes together. And God, you know what? If it's as easy as identifying ourselves with those things which we find ourselves most far removed, then by God, we can do it.
Yeah.
Look at all the other shit we've done and overcome, every one of us.
And if in the process of remembering that you are soul, you also have to remember that as soul, the great I am, you're not here to put up with other people's shit. No.
Nor your own.
But if you tend to your own vibration, if you tend to yourself, if you do the inner work on you, if you clear, and if you take, after clearing, take accountability and responsibility for your participation in the energy and the experience that you have created in your life for your highest growth.
Right.
And then invite in the energy and presence of every single thing that you came here to experience. And you make a conscious choice, moment by moment by moment, following that, to engage in anything that takes you further and deeper into your heart.
Yeah.
Compassion for yourself as you go there and do this, honoring yourself as you do, remembering the wisdom that you of the experiences that you have gone through. You didn't go through those experiences to bury you. You went through them so that you would remember who you are.
Mm-hmm. That's
that
right.
You are soul, that you are the divinity within.
That's right.
So as the soul, as the divine, as the creator of your experience, stop compromising your happiness, your joy, your bliss, your peace, your ease with another person who does not have their shit together, who refuses to take accountability and responsibility for themselves because they're just not in that place that you are. And that's not you judging them. It's you literally remembering that it's just you in this experience.
Well, and the thing is too, that's what I'm saying. This is it's a really fine line, because it's such a powerful step when you gain awareness and you elevate. It's real easy for us to fall into another level and fall in separation. Because the thing is, the whole point is that it like, okay, what happened with your friend? He said, I really think you're being,
You're overreacting.
You're overreacting. I've had people tell me, you know what I'll tell them? I'll say, that's none of my business.
Yeah.
And move on, and I'm not being disrespectful, but look, I can't even take that thought forward, because if I take that thought forward, I'm caught up in it. Even if I don't say something, yeah, by all means. I mean, but and we got to remember too, and this is really interesting, because I've actually, on a personal level, made some initial strides with this over the last week to 10 days. And so what it is okay, so we know it's quantum now. We know we're observers, okay? But this is quantum physics, which means that anything that I'm thinking is creating. So if I'm thinking Melissa's, she did this and she did that, and I'm not going to say anything, but I'm creating that. And I used to have an issue with that. I thought, well, how can anyone influence me? And how could I influence them? That just doesn't seem right. Well, I don't have all the answers, but I know one thing. If I'm going to error, whatever, on the side, it's going to be on the side of, yeah, I respect your power enough and my power enough to know that we're quantum creators. And I'm going to watch myself as these things play out in front of me and be very careful what I'm thinking. If I'm really soul and you're soul, then I don't have to try to, substantiate your perfection. Or one of the things people get caught up a lot in is, oh, I need to heal them and I need to heal them, and they're not listening and they're not listening. It ain't about them. It's about you. That's another thing that I think is kind of hard too, is because we've spent so much time in this conditioning where we got to serve our country, we got to serve our family, we got to serve this, we got to serve that, we got to serve shit. Okay. And this game, this quantum game, is a different kind of math, but you serve to thine own self be true.
Yeah. And
when you do that, there's like this automatic, instantaneous thing that happens in the external.
Yeah.
And so it's like you don't even have to think about helping the other people, because you are helping them by doing what you're doing with yourself. And I know that sounds cliche, but it's true.
It's so true. And there's nothing more empowering than serving yourself. And again, that, you see, we've been taught through conditioning and beliefs and generationally, don't be selfish.
Yeah.
But when you say yes to somebody else or something else and no to you, let me tell you, that's the highest level of dishonor and disrespect you can ever, play out yourself. As long as I am concerned with trying to make you see my point of view,
yeah,
You need to listen to me. You need to hear what I'm saying. You need to see what I'm saying. I am enabling myself to stay on that loop of attachment, suffering, attachment, suffering, attachment, suffering. And then all of a sudden, your life's gone and you're wondering, what the hell just happened?
Yeah.
You stay in your lane. You look after yourself. You maintain your vibration. That's your only job. It's your only job. If somebody makes you, if the actions of somebody else outside of you trigger you, and you know that it's your stuff, do something about it. If you know that it's theirs, like it's them, then remove yourself. But you always have a choice. Always.
That's right. So let me ask you something. Wait a minute. I'm going to ask you a question. What is, Susan said, what is a quantum creator? I'd never seen that definition of it. I was just saying that, in other words, quantum creator would be to me, well, it's I am soul, having a responsibility and understanding and awareness that everything you think creates something, even if it has to do, like if I have ill feelings, like say Melissa and I are dating and then she ends up finding somebody else and I wasn't really in a space of unconditional love and let's wish the best for her, and they're getting married and going to have a family, and I carry bad thoughts towards them. I'm here to say that I don't think anybody has all the answers, but there's a strong possibility, if not fact, that I am going to, my energy is going to influence that family and those people, and it's not going to be in the best way. Mm. But by the same token, it can go the other way too, you know? It can go, you know, so this whole state of neutrality and respecting our power and being a quantum observer, which means you're a quantum creator, is, I think, where we're at now. And that self-analysis, that self-introspection, and self-transformation is where it all starts and stops. And speaking of that, I want to, Melissa, I want to know, do you do sessions? I mean, you mentioned something about earlier. You mentioned a group too, and I think I know which one that is. I think we're going to have Martin on pretty soon. But where can people find you? What kind of sessions do you offer, and whatever else you got to say about that?
Thank you. So you can find me. My public page is The Everyday Warrior, and I will pop a link for the page in the comments after the show. The most humbling, epic sessions I get to be a part of are when somebody is on this hamster wheel and they can't get off. And you have situations that keep recurring in their life. What I do with people is I help them to own their shift in awareness, their shift in consciousness, their shift in their mindset, shift in happiness, whatever it looks like, by having the capacity to, like I explained earlier on, it's like going into drone mode. I'm able to observe from the outside based on the information that I get from the people I work with. And it's like you're putting all the puzzle pieces back together for them, but it's not me doing the work. I'm just the mirror. I'm just the person who brings it all together. They're my favorite sessions. I'm actually I'm hoping to launch it next month. My own website, I called it ownyourshift.ie, and a mentorship group where I'm planning on creating, it works at the moment, a community for people who want to own their sovereignty, but with support.
Yeah.
This isn't going to be a place for, hey, hon, are you okay? This is for the people who have enough, who want to break free from these patterns and these cycles and these situations that have held them a prisoner of their own self. So that's coming up too. But if anybody wants to contact me, they can catch me on direct message on my private page, my own public, and my public page. You can catch me on both of those. That's me.
Cool. So instant messenger then?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, you'll catch me.
Very cool, man. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's good to. Sorry, I got a late start today, and I'm a little slow, but I didn't need to do much talking. You had it down. We have to catch up again soon, and and see where this goes. I think September and October are going to be huge. But right now, I just want to acknowledge in myself and everybody else that you wake up in the morning and sometimes those things do come back, or sometimes feelings come back, and all that normal human stuff comes back. And I've learned one thing, and that's just to keep honoring the human, no matter what's coming in from up here. We're the ones down here doing the work. We showed up. We're valiant souls, and we're the boots on the ground, and we're expanding this universe. And by God, everyone out there that we're looking at, that we've projected on and separate ourselves from, even if we thought we had all the reason in the world, they're just like we are. We're
all in the arena together. So self-compassion is the remedy, guys.
There you go.
Compassion all the way, and don't be an asshole.
Well, I have to be. I was born that way. I'll see you later. Take care.
Take care. Mwah. Thank you.
All right, Melissa. See you. Good to
Bye.
see you.